Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started as folks are joining us, and we love seeing individuals coming into the room. So we thank you all of our colleagues that are joining us today. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Today we have an amazing guest, and I cannot wait to introduce you to her. Please note that we will have a special session from 1 to 1:30 to have a Q&A with our speaker. However, don't forget to post your questions to the chat, and our committee will keep their eyes out for it. And also, don't forget to complete the evaluation at the end, and we will make sure that we share the link in the chat. I am Rhonda Davis. I serve as ABERG's co-chair, as well as the state specialist for Justice Involved Families with the Human Development and Relationships Institute. And I again welcome you all to our Wisdom Wednesday session. I would like to pause to reflect on this day in Black history. On October 18th, 1944, actor and civil rights activist Paul Robeson was awarded the Spingarn Medal for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP, for his achievements in the arts. Robeson was born in Princeton, New Jersey on April 9, 1898. He went on to become one of the most prominent performers during the Harlem Renaissance, appearing in many productions, including The Emperor Jones and All God's Chillin' Got Wings. The son of an escaped slave, Robeson actively spoke out against racism and became deeply involved in the civil rights movement. His refusal to publicly rebuke his beliefs led him to be blacklisted from films in the 1940s and 1950s. On January 23, 1976, Robeson died at the age of 77 after suffering a stroke. For more information, please visit ABERG's SharePoint site and also visit our calendar of events. Just want to provide you a brief overview of ABERG. We want to again thank you for sharing your lunch hour with the African American Black Employee Resource Group, affectionately known as ABERG. ABERG's purpose is to serve as a resource for and foster current and future African American colleagues' success by sponsoring programming, providing collegial support, encouraging belonging, and raising a collective voice related to issues that impact employees' ability to thrive personally and professionally. I'd like to take this time to acknowledge our committee members, Danielle Hairston Green, who serves as our chair, myself, Rhonda Davis, I serve as the co-chair for ABERG, Quintella Perry is our secretary, Catherine Borick-Schmock is our treasurer, James Bowling and Eva Terry are the co-chairs of our Membership and Retention Committee. Carla Williams is the chair of our Marketing and Media Committee, and Cheryl Isabel serves as the chair of our Professional Development Committee. Now on to our presenter. I am super excited to introduce Ms. Dominique Green, who will present today the second of 3 sessions on connecting culture to marketing, elevating equity in marketing. An amazing discussion that aims to equip professionals with the essential skills to understand, resonate with, and authentically engage diverse audiences. Meet Dominique Green, the brains behind Dom G Creative Agency, and a graduate who knows how to turn the tassel in style. She rocked the cap and gown at the Howard University, the ultimate historically Black college, with summa cum laude honors in 2021. Now that's how you do it. But wait, Dominique isn't your average overachiever. She kicked off her entrepreneurial journey at the tender age of 15. By 16, she was already strutting her stuff as one of Houston's top 100 young professionals. Move over high school drama, Dominique was too busy making moves. She's no stranger to the big leagues, having worked her magic as a marketing and communications whiz for heavy hitters like Gucci, Tinder, Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting, University of Minnesota Banton Health, I hope I said that correctly, and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Yep, she's practically a rock star in the professional world. So now Dominique is the heart and soul of Dom G Creative Agency, a Black-owned and operated creative powerhouse that spans the entire United States. Their mission: to bridge the gap between people and technology while turning dreams into reality. If you thought the impossible was off the table, think again. Dominique is here to prove you wrong with a smile on her face and creativity on her mind. To review her full bio, please visit the ABERG SharePoint site. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Miss Dominique Green. Dominique, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope that you guys got the crust out of your eyes already. I'm still getting it out of mine a little bit, so bear with me. My energy will definitely increase over time. But thanks so much for hopping on for session 2. Let me share my screen here, hopefully. Let's see. Okay, cool. So this is session 2 for the Connecting Culture to Marketing Workshop series. Like I said, I'm super excited to be back to talk about this again. This is just talking about marketing in general, especially, talking about cultural diversity within it is one of my passions. So I do tend to get super excited and ramble, and, you can see it in my face after a while. So if you see it, just know that that's just me. That's just how I'm doing it today. So we're going to kick it off with the agenda for today. The first thing I want to do is definitely recap from last session. I do understand that there may be some people on this call who didn't have the opportunity to join on session 1. So I'm going to just briefly go over a couple of things that we learned in session 1 so that you guys can be ready and equipped to learn new things today. And then, like I mentioned at the end of session 1, I'm going to bring in some scenario questions that we weren't able to touch on last time because we definitely got really wrapped up in our activities from session 1, which is a super awesome thing to even experience with you guys. But I am going to bring back those questions that I wasn't able to present to you all in session 1 before we start today's topic. And leading into that, today's topic is we're going to be talking about understanding social and cultural issues and how understanding those issues helps us make impactful decision-making when we're talking about new marketing strategies and campaigns and communications efforts. And then we're going to transition into fostering inclusivity in social media practices, and then closing out with our typical Q&A and closing. Today's session will be a little bit different as far as the setup. Of course, like I said, we're going to start with our recap, but I will be going through all of my slides first before diving into the interactive portions of the session. That way we can ensure that this time everybody has all the information that they need before engaging in the activity and applying that learned information. So I'm going to get into this recap. Oh, but first, me. Once again, I'm Dominique Green. This is me, a picture of me on a good day. And I'm happy to be your facilitator again today. So what we talked about last time, what is cultural diversity? Cultural diversity in marketing refers to the inclusion and recognition of various cultural backgrounds, beliefs, values, traditions, and lifestyles within marketing strategies, campaigns, and communication. It entails acknowledging and respecting the differences among target audiences and adapting marketing efforts to effectively engage and resonate with diverse consumer groups. This was kind of the focal point of session 1. We kind of did everything around what is cultural diversity. We also talked about marketing groups and the difference between the marketing group and the target audience. So just for a refresher, a marketing group is a broad category of the market, while a target audience is a specific subset within that group. So an example of this would be a university marketing group may have prospective students as their marketing group, and the target audience within that could be high-achieving high school students interested in STEM programs. Identifying both is crucial for effective marketing campaigns. You can get as specific as you want with a target audience. So while this one is high achieving high school students interested in STEM programs, you can also add on top of that African American high achieving high school students from different communities interested in STEM programs. You can get as specific as you want with a target audience because it's the target, while the marketing group is the broad idea. Then we talked about what is inclusive marketing. Inclusive marketing is a strategic approach that aims to create advertising and promotional materials that resonate with a diverse audience, regardless of their background, identity, or characteristics. It emphasizes the representation of various ethnicities, genders, abilities, ages, and other facets of diversity in marketing. So this is going to be our favorite kind of marketing, which is inclusive. Over. Unfortunately, our least favorite kind of marketing is discriminatory marketing, which is also known as exclusionary marketing, which involves practices that intentionally or unintentionally exclude or target specific groups of people based on characteristics such as race, gender, ethnicity, age, religion, disability, or other protected attributes. Let me go back actually. So those are the couple of things that we talked about in the last session, just to get everybody up to speed, whether you were here in session 1 and you needed a refresher, or you missed out on session 1 and you want to catch up with us. All this information is really crucial, not only to just understanding the importance of cultural diversity, but just in understanding all the different facets of marketing and how different factors can play into how your audience reacts to the content that you're pushing or whatever you're advertising, whether it's an event, a new business, a new program. There's so many different important layers to marketing when it comes to being culturally aware. Like I said, in our last session, we didn't get the chance to do our final scenarios, which I really wanted to present to you guys so that we could kind of tie in all of the things that we learned in session 1 and see how they are applied in different scenarios. So I'm going to go to my next slide, which is our first scenario. And before I get into the scenarios, I do want to emphasize that all of these things can be applied, to any industry, any department, any field that you work in. So if you see a question and you're thinking, I don't know how that could apply to me, maybe switch out the words. If you don't work in a school of medicine, but you work in a department of agriculture, go ahead and swap that out, and you'll definitely be able to understand how these things apply to all areas. So I'm going to go ahead and get the first poll up and running. Actually, I don't think I can do it while I'm sharing my screen. So if someone that's the host could share the exclusive admissions poll. Awesome, thanks so much. So the question is, the university's admissions team is preparing a new brochure to attract prospective students. They want to ensure that it's inclusive. So what is the best way to ensure that the university's admissions brochure is inclusive based on the answers that we have listed below? So we have A, the team only includes images of students from the same ethnicity to maintain a cohesive look. We have B, the team selects images of students from similar backgrounds to make the brochure relatable. We have C, the team incorporates images of students with diverse backgrounds to reflect the university's commitment to inclusivity. And then we have D, the team excludes images of students with disabilities to avoid drawing attention to differences. So I'll give another 30 seconds for you guys to answer. And it's not a trick question. I promise it's not a trick question, so don't overthink it. All right, so it seems like a majority of everyone has participated in the poll. So I'm going to end it here and share those results. Cool. I love Zoom polls. It's like actually my first time using them, so this is like super innovative to me. But if you answered question C, or answer C, you are correct. And I'm going to go through the answers really quickly so you can understand why this was the best possible answer. So we have answer A. The team only includes images of students from the same ethnicity to maintain a cohesive look. Automatically, it's not inclusive. It's not diverse. And it gives the impression that the university only focuses on a specific group of people because they've only used images of people who look a certain way. A lot of people experience this on a daily basis, and not just at universities, at nonprofits, for-profits, at their own schools, in their own workplace, where there's marketing materials that are put out, and oftentimes it has majority of white presence in these images, and maybe one or two people of color included in it. And this is something that we want to avoid. We want to make sure that whatever we're putting out is diverse, is inclusive. Everyone feels seen and heard and represented. Answer B, the team selects images of students from similar backgrounds to make the brochure relatable. I lied. I said it wasn't a trick question, but it kind of was, because I could see how someone would answer this question. However, it's still not diverse and it's not inclusive. So while on the outside looking in, it may look diverse because of what's being represented, it's really about the intention behind the scenes. So by only selecting students who come from a similar background, you're excluding those who come from other backgrounds. So maybe the brochure is only pictures of students from Madison, Wisconsin, or maybe it's a brochure full of students who are all interested in going into the medical field. Even though you can't see it, it's still not diverse and inclusive. And you want to make sure you're being intentional on the back end, just like you are on the outside looking in. And then the last answer was the team excludes images of students with disabilities to avoid drawing attention to differences. And this is something we never want to do. You never want to exclude, and you never want to avoid drawing attention to differences. Our goal is always to drive the attention to the differences, to make everyone feel seen, heard, included, and represented in whatever you're doing. Cool. So we're going to go into our next question. Let me go back here. Can I start? Cool. Okay, I can start the next poll. So here's our next question. What is the most effective way for the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Medicine to advertise their scholarship dedicated to first-year African-American students with a background in healthcare equity? I know it was a lot of words, so I'm going to read it for you guys. What is the most effective way for the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Medicine to advertise their scholarship dedicated to first-year African-American students with a background in healthcare equity? Option A, hosting a virtual seminar on healthcare equity, inviting prominent African-American healthcare professionals to share insights and promote the scholarship opportunity. B, timing the scholarship announcement to coincide with significant cultural events like Juneteenth or Martin Luther King Jr. Day to honor and recognize the importance of these occasions. C, avoiding any mention of cultural differences to maintain neutrality. Or D, using exclusively African-American models and promotional materials, assuming it will resonate better with the target audience. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to think about it. I know I lied last time about it not being a trick question, but this one actually isn't a trick question. I 100% promise you that. All right, I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, so I've had this poll run almost 2 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and end it now. And then I'm going to share the results and then hop into the answers. So if you answered A, you are correct. Congratulations on answering yet another question. So I'm going to go again down the list and explain, the reasoning behind these answers. So B, timing the scholarship announcement to coincide with significant cultural events like Juneteenth or Martin Luther King Jr. Day to honor and recognize the importance of these occasions. This is something we typically want to avoid doing. It does give the impression that whatever the organization or company is, it gives the impression that they're only doing this because of the time of year. So when you are promoting something for a specific group, and in this example, African American students, but for example, it's February, and this is the only time, we've heard from you all year about this specific group of students, it does feel performative. And it feels like, you did this because you felt like you had to do it because of what was being celebrated at that time. So we always want to make sure that no matter what time of year it is, no matter what day it is, no matter what just happened in recent history, that we're always thinking of different cultural groups throughout the year. And never just focusing on the time of year that they are typically celebrating a cultural event. C, avoiding any mention of cultural differences to maintain neutrality. No, not the right answer in this case, especially because this is a scholarship that was dedicated to first-year African-American students specifically. So it is important to highlight those mention of cultural differences so that people can understand the importance of the scholarship and why it's being offered in the first place. And then we have D, using exclusively African-American models and promotional materials, assuming it will resonate better with the target audience. This is something that needs to be done, right? When we're advertising something for African-American students, we want to make sure they are represented by using pictures of African-American students, but that's not the end all be all. That's kind of like a given, right? This is something that we should have done, regardless of the situation. But there are better ways and more effective ways to advertise these types of things. Just putting Black students on a flyer and handing it out across campus isn't as effective as we would like it to be. And we have one last question. I promise it's the last one. I don't have to take any more quizzes after this. Our question is, what communications tactic could the university employ to make Asian students feel more included in residence halls? What communications tactic could the university employ to make Asian students feel more included in residence halls? A, introduce multilingual signage and informational materials to accommodate diverse language preferences. B, host exclusive events only for Asian students to create a close-knit community within the residence halls. C, use traditional American cultural symbols and references to ensure assimilation and familiarity for Asian students. Or D, limit communication efforts to English-only channels to maintain consistency and avoid potential misunderstandings. Okay, I see everyone's catching on quickly because the answer, they've got an answer pretty quick. So I'm glad to see you all are understanding. I'm gonna give it like 10 more seconds so we can get this show on the road. All right, so I'm going to end the poll here and want to share the results. So of course, the answer is A, introduce multilingual signage and informational materials to accommodate diverse language preferences. So B, hosting exclusive events only for Asian students to create a close-knit community within the residence halls. This is a contradictory statement because by having it be Asian students only, it is not creating a close-knit community within the residence halls. Any type of event where you're saying that someone cannot participate because of their ethnicity, the color of their skin, their race, gender, sexuality, background is not being inclusive in any way, shape, or form. And that's something that we want to avoid doing. And in order for a group of students to feel included and seen and represented, you have to merge them with the rest of the population. So by, sectioning them off does not really create that sense of inclusivity. C, use traditional American cultural symbols and references to ensure assimilation and familiarity for Asian students. No, that's not something that, we ever want to do. You don't want to kind of disregard someone's culture by forcing your own on them. We we should be in a space where we're comfortable with adapting and shape shifting, and doing whatever we can to make one feel comfortable, and not making them feel like they have to, kind of leave their culture behind in order to feel seen and heard. D, limit communication efforts to English-only channels to maintain consistency and avoid potential misunderstandings. Same reasoning as answer C. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to work out. These were just a couple of the questions that we weren't able to touch on in our last presentation, but I wanted to bring them back around so that we could understand how all the things that we talked about in last session can be applied in a variety of scenarios. It doesn't matter, like I said before, what industry you're in, what role you play at your current company or organization or university. These are things that should always be at the forefront. And these are things that we should be able to identify quickly, regardless of the work that we do. So I'm going to stop sharing. We're done talking about session 1. Session 1 is old and gone. So now we can dive into session 2. So today, elevating equity in marketing. We're going to talk about or focus on 2 points. One is strategies to stay informed about cultural issues, and how those cultural issues and being informed about those cultural issues will help us make effective decisions when it comes to our marketing communications and strategic plans. And then we're going to talk about fostering inclusivity, sorry if I misspelled there, in your social media activities. So by the end of this session, you will have a deeper understanding of how to integrate equity-focused approaches into your marketing efforts, ultimately building a more inclusive and impactful campaign. So we're going to turn our attention to the first topic of today's session, understanding social and cultural issues. In today's rapidly evolving world, staying informed about these issues is crucial for effective marketing strategies. Social and cultural issues encompass a wide range of topics, from diversity and inclusion to broader societal trends. Being attuned to these issues allows us to create campaigns that are not only relevant, but also sensitive to the needs and values of our diverse audience. There are various reasons why understanding these issues are important in marketing. So 1, we have relevance. Staying informed about social and cultural issues ensures that marketing efforts remain relevant and resonate with the target audience. Avoiding insensitivity. Awareness of these issues helps in avoiding inadvertently offensive or insensitive content in marketing campaigns. Building trust. Addressing social and cultural concerns builds trust with consumers, demonstrating a brand's commitment to values beyond profit, right? We always want to make sure we are showing our commitment to the values beyond the profit. Innovation. Understanding societal shifts and values can lead to innovative marketing approaches that align with emerging trends. Competitive advantage. Brands that effectively address these issues often gain a competitive edge by differentiating themselves in the market. So later in this presentation with our activities, we'll have the opportunity to dive deeper into this subject and analyze a current social or cultural issue as a unit, as a group. So there's a couple of things, that we talked about already in the last slide. We talked about avoiding insensitivity. We talked about, relevance, building trust, all these things. So I'm going to kind of now dive into, how we stay on top of these topics. So now that we understand the significance of staying informed about social and cultural issues, here's going to be some practical strategies to help you stay up to date. And the first practical strategy that we have is continuous learning and marketing as it relates to cultural and social issues. I have a plethora of resources that I could share. It will probably be about 200 pages, but I'm just going to select my favorite resources that I like to share with everyone. So it's really important to continuously learn about these topics. So, engage in ongoing education to stay updated with industry trends and best practices, and then exploring resources like webinars, workshops, courses, and industry publications. So the first resource I'd like to share is TED Talks, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already know about it. And If I'm not mistaken, I think Extension has the X Talks series. So, this is something that you guys are probably pretty familiar with already. But TED Talks features a wide range of talks on various social and cultural topics from experts and thought leaders. And they're not long videos, I promise. I have a short attention span. So, anything over 10 minutes, my brain cannot compute it anymore. But they do have very, very great informative videos from people from all over the world, from different backgrounds. You may have someone who's super well known on the stage, or you may have somebody who has like 200 followers on Instagram, but they have like really important messages to share, and they're really impactful and really effective. So TED Talks is definitely a great resource. One of my true favorites is Harvard's implicit bias test. This test helps individuals understand and address implicit biases that may influence decision-making. I'm a big fan of tests and assessments because, we like ourselves. Our families like to speak highly of us, our friends and our partners like to speak highly of us, but the test is not going to lie. So sometimes we may think that we're not biased. Sometimes we may think we're not prejudiced. Some people think they're not racist, but these tests will really bring that out and kind of give you your own reality check. And it will help you kind of make decisions moving forward on how you interact with different groups of people in both your personal life and in your work life. Then we have the Cultural Intelligence Center, who offers resources and assessments to develop cultural intelligence for effective intercultural communications. So their test is very specific. The National Association for Media Literacy Education offers resources for media literacy, including understanding media's role in culture and society. And then lastly, we have the Southern Poverty Law Center, which provides resources on combating hate, prejudice, and extremism. So next we have diverse news sources. This is another great way to stay on top of everything, to access information from a variety of reputable and diverse news outlets and seek perspectives from sources representing different demographics and viewpoints. Anybody that knows me knows that I love NPR. I would do anything for NPR. I will watch every single Tiny Desk and listen to their boring monotone radio stations, but I love NPR. They provide balanced and diverse coverage of news, including social and cultural issues. So it's never biased, it's never opinionated, it's always fact-based. Vox is also a really good source for people who are true visual learners. I actually had the pleasure of visiting their headquarters a couple of years ago, and it's amazing. They provide in-depth explanations of their journalism on a variety of social and cultural subjects. And when I say it's in-depth, it's in-depth. They create illustrations, videos, audio pieces, all these interactive things to help you understand. So when you ask somebody like, can you say that again, but if I was 6 years old, Vox already does that as if you're 6 years old. So you don't have to like ask that question anymore. Just go to their website. They explain everything, and it's super awesome. We have the Guardian, which is known for its progressive stance, and they cover a wide array of social and cultural topics. BBC News World provides comprehensive global coverage with a diverse range of perspective. And then HuffPost Voices showcase the wide range of perspectives on various social and cultural issues as well. And then lastly, follow some thought leaders, gain insights from experts and influencers in the field, stay updated on the latest trends, research, and thought-provoking ideas. There's a billion thought leaders out there. Like I said before, some may have 2.5 million and the others may have 200, but there's lots of them on social media. Nicole Hannah-Jones is great. She focuses on race and ethnicity. She is also part of the 1619 Project, which I had the pleasure of working on a couple years ago when it was first being developed, which is an awesome project. So I definitely encourage everyone to look into that. We have Dr. Zalika Zavalos, and I hope I pronounced that right, but she focuses on sociology and anthropology. Jennifer Brown, she focuses on diversity and inclusion. Roxane Gay, she focuses on gender and LGBTQIA+ issues. Malala Yousafzai, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard of at this moment in time, but she focuses on human rights and social justice. And then my personal favorite, Ava DuVernay, who focuses on media and culture. If you have not watched the 13th documentary on Netflix, I recommend you watch it ASAP. It's very heavy, but it's very informative and thought-provoking, and I think a lot of you would benefit from it. So those are just, a couple ways that you guys can stay up to speed on what's going on in the world around us. If you're not an article reader, follow someone on Twitter. If you're not a Twitter reader, talk to somebody who may be a Twitter reader or who may be, keeping up with the news on a consistent basis, because this is the only way that you can truly be culturally aware, diverse, and inclusive in your marketing efforts. There's no possible way to be culturally aware in your marketing in 2023 when the last time you read an article was in 2010. Things change, and not just every year, not just every month, but every day. So it's really important to keep yourself up to speed, educate yourself. Don't depend on others to tell you. That's a issue that we face all the time, where sometimes we feel like, well, if the Native American population is experiencing this, then they should educate us on it. Or if the Asian and Pacific Islander group is experiencing this issue, they should tell us. We should be telling ourselves. We should be turn on those Google alerts, turn on post notifications for CNN, for BBC, and educating ourselves. We can't always depend on other people to educate us on things. We have to be our own educators. That might be on a t-shirt, be your own educator. See, now I'm going to make some merchandise after that. But cool. So that was just, a quick thing I wanted to go through. The majority of this presentation or this session is going to focus on the social media part, but I just wanted to make sure that I share these resources so that you guys can take this away and find ways to be, maybe be thought leaders yourselves, or just continue to educate yourselves. So in today's digital age, social media platforms are powerful tools for connecting with diverse audiences. Fostering inclusivity in your social media presence is not only ethically important, but also contributes to a more authentic and engaged community. Here's some key strategies to consider. Diverse content creation, so ensuring your content reflects a variety of perspectives, backgrounds, and experiences. Inclusive language, using language that is respectful, inclusive, and free from any potentially offensive or exclusionary terms. This helps create a welcoming environment. Cultural awareness, which we talked about already, but being mindful of cultural sensitivities and celebrate diverse cultural events or holidays in a respectful manner. Accessibility, ensuring your content is accessible to everyone with different abilities. Engagement and feedback, actively engaging with your audience and welcoming their feedback. And then, of course, representation matters. So highlight and amplify voices from underrepresented communities, share stories, achievements, and experiences. By implementing these strategies, you're not only creating a more inclusive space, but also establishing a brand that values diversity, equality, and respect. This fosters a sense of belonging among your audience and strengthens your brand's reputation. I'm not going to go into every single one of these in detail because these are things that we talked about previously, right? So we talked about cultural awareness. We talked about how representation matters, but I'm going to focus on a couple that are really, really important for today's discussion. So inclusive language and marketing is a critical aspect of creating marketing materials that resonate with a diverse audience. It involves choosing words and phrases that avoid assumptions or stereotypes based on gender, race, ethnicity, age, ability, and other characteristics. So why does inclusive language matter? Well, first, it ensures that your messaging is accessible and relatable to a wide audience, regardless of their background. It prevents unintentional exclusion, so it helps, like I said, prevents unintentional exclusion. And then respect and equality. It demonstrates respect for individuals by acknowledging and valuing their unique experiences and identities. So some examples of inclusive language: instead of addressing a group as guys, consider using everyone or folks to be more inclusive. This is a habit that we all have had for a very long time. And sometimes we slip up and we still do it today, but it's just important that we recognize that and make efforts to improve that moving forward. When referring to someone's significant other, use partner rather than assuming their marital status. And not just for assuming their marital status, you're also assuming gender. When you say this person's boyfriend or this person's girlfriend. You know, they may identify as they, them, they may be non-binary. So just saying significant other or just saying partner is much more inclusive than any other language there. Opt for gender neutral pronouns like they to be inclusive of all gender identities. And additionally, it's important to avoid ableist language, so such as terms that stigmatize mental health or disabilities. And remember, you know, to review and update your marketing content regularly to ensure it reflects the value of inclusivity and respect, because language change as time goes on. So what may be okay today may not be okay tomorrow. So it's really important to stay up to speed on those things. But inclusive language is such an important thing to make sure you're doing, because the slightest thing could change the whole narrative and tone of the message that you're trying to share. So then we have accessibility in marketing, which is about ensuring that our content and materials can be easily accessed and understood by individuals of all abilities. This includes people with disabilities who may use various assistive technologies to interact with digital content. So why is accessibility important in marketing? So of course, we've talked about this already, but inclusivity and reach, right? I'm not going to dive into it, but it's being more inclusive. But legal and ethical obligations now play a part. So ensuring accessibility is not just about good practice, but in many cases, it's also a legal requirement. It's about preventing discrimination and promoting equal access. So some key aspects of accessibility in marketing. We have visual accessibility. This involves providing alternative text for images so that screen readers can convey the information to those with visual impairments. It's also about using colors and fonts that are easy to read. So the whole Comic Sans argument has been a thing for years, and how everybody hates Comic Sans. It's a terrible font. But not only is it a terrible font, it's not easy to read for someone who has a visual impairment. So it's really important that we focus on color and font. If you have a flyer that's orange and you have a text that's colored red, you know, that nobody can read that, but especially someone who has visual impairments. So visual accessibility is really, really important. We also have auditory accessibility. So this includes providing captions or transcripts for videos. This ensures that those who are deaf or hard of hearing can still engage with the content. I know that sometimes we have videos that are 30 minutes, an hour long, and transcribing can take a long time. And oftentimes, that's the reason why closed captions and transcripts aren't available, because of how much time it will take to make those closed captions. But there's plethora of softwares available. You can even hire a transcriber to do it for you, or you could download softwares where all you have to do is upload the video and they can type the whole thing out for you. Even with Zoom, you know, you can record with Zoom, and once you upload it to the cloud, you can check the closed caption box off. Or even right now, I'm looking at my screen, it says a participant has enabled closed captioning. So all these things are available to us. We just have to make sure we're looking for them. And then we have cognitive accessibility. It's about using clear and simple language, avoiding jargon, and making sure navigation is intuitive. That's really, really important to do, especially when hiring for positions, which is something that I've seen quite often, you know, hiring for roles that use so much jargon that it's hard to understand it. It does exclude specific groups of people when you do that. So cognitive accessibility is really, really important here. So testing and gathering feedback from diverse users, including those with disabilities, is crucial. It helps us identify areas for improvement and ensure that our marketing materials are truly inclusive. By prioritizing accessibility, we're not only meeting legal standards, but also showing our commitment to inclusivity and respect for all individuals. This strengthens our brand and fosters a deeper connection with our audience. And then we have, lastly, before we get into our activity, building a diverse community. A diverse online community isn't just about numbers. It's about the richness of perspectives and experiences. It leads to more robust discussions, innovative ideas, and a stronger sense of belonging for all participants. And building a diverse online community is definitely different from building a diverse in-person community as far as the strategies that you can put in place to do that. So here's some strategies for building a diverse community. First, start with representation, which we've talked about, ensuring that your content and visuals reflect a wide range of demographics. Inclusive language, using language that is welcoming and respectful to all individuals. But lastly, engagement initiatives, creating events, discussions, or campaigns that actively encourage participation from diverse groups. That's a really crucial piece there, because you can be as diverse as you want in your imagery, in your language, and whatever it is, but if your audience isn't representing that or isn't a reflection of that, you want to make sure that you're taking those steps to make sure that your audience becomes a reflection of your diverse initiative. So creating engagement initiatives, like stated here, creating events, discussions, or campaigns that actively encourage participation from diverse groups really will help drive that home. Cool. So I've talked. You heard me for a long time. And it's time for you to talk. This is going to get a little fun. So I have a trend analysis activity here. So it's an exercise in staying relevant and sensitive to the dynamic social and cultural landscape. In this activity, we're going to dive into current issues that impact marketing strategies. The goal of this workshop is to equip you with the skills to identify and respond to emerging trends in the ever-changing cultural and social landscape. Some of the benefits here are key takeaways would be real-time relevance, cultural sensitivity, adaptability. So remember that this activity is not just about analysis, but it's also about translating that understanding into actionable marketing strategies. So let's dive in and uncover the insights that will drive our inclusive marketing efforts. All right, so we have case one here. So we're going to be talking about online learning and continuing education in a post-pandemic world. So given the global shift towards remote work and learning, there's been a surge in demand for online education and professional development. We're going to investigate how organizations can adapt to meet the evolving needs of learners, considering factors such as online course design, accessibility, and marketing strategies tailored to remote learners, right? So, of course, you guys can unmute yourselves, put yourselves in the chat, whatever, way you want to engage is fine with me. But let's talk about this. What can organizations do to support the shift from in-person to remote work with categories like accessibility? What does that look like? Categories like, inclusivity. What does that look like? So an example that I can give to you guys when it comes to this is, okay, we're shifting towards a remote work and learning space. So how does this impact our employees and team members that are hard of hearing and deaf? When I worked at Apple, one of the things that they did during our training process was bring in a sign language interpreter to be there throughout the entire onboarding process, doing sign language to help not only myself communicate with my new coworker, but help my coworker communicate with those who were of hearing and communicate with customers, which is really cool. I mean, they had iPads available with a sign language interpreter, so they had them like in between my coworker and the customer. So that was just something that was put in place to help, especially since we were in the pandemic, we had masks on, he couldn't read lips, So what are some things that organizations can do to help with this, to help this post-pandemic world and online work, online learning and education, getting tongue-tied? And this could be from from a different perspective, but obviously we're talking about, marketing communications, but you can take any approach you want. Will in-person opportunities coexist or be a limit? Oh, the chat is, okay, it's moving, okay. Okay, so I'm going to start from the bottom up. That's going to be easier. So creating visual platforms, absolutely. Make it something that's more visually engaging so that our coworkers can feel like they're a part of a community and feel like, there's actually, some sense of community within their workplace. Provide ongoing training with both virtual and in-person teaching and learning. Right. So don't take away the opportunity. We've been in this online space. We know that we can do it. So we don't have to 100% go back to in-person, but let's see how we can incorporate both. I mean, my previous job, I was working 100% remote. And then when people start shifting back into the workspace, I'm the only one out the state. So I'm like, don't leave me out. I'm still here. I still exist. So can we continue to do these virtual things together? We can work with our Office of Access, Inclusion, and Compliance to offer interpretation during our Zoom meetings. Absolutely. That will definitely fall under, accessibility. They can offer learning management system access, example, Canvas to learners. Absolutely. Internet availability. Yes, that's really important. If we're going to be working in a remote space, we need some internet. We got to connect. Design tools so that learning opportunities can be used on mobile devices. Don't assume everyone has a desktop or a laptop. That's great. And while these are just things that we're talking about in general, these things apply to marketing and communications, right? Even what Julie just said, designing tools so that learning opportunities can be used on mobile devices. You have to understand that your target audience may not have a desktop or laptop. And just, diving into my own personal life, I was surprised when my boyfriend told me he didn't have a laptop. I was confused because I've always had a laptop. I do everything virtually. But you have to understand that not everybody has that. Sometimes people don't feel the need to have one. So making sure, we're designing tools for mobile devices goes not only into the category of accessibility, but it also goes into the category of different backgrounds, different like financial backgrounds specifically. But all these answers are great. Thanks for engaging on that. And that's kind of the point of these case studies, right? We're going to look at these things and we're going to create solutions for them, but then we're also tying them to how those solutions affect our marketing approach as well. So case 2, strengthening in-person community connections. So in an era of technology-driven communication, there is a renewed emphasis on face-to-face interactions and grassroots community engagement. This trend highlights the value of building strong personal relationships within the local community through in-person outreach initiatives. So we're going to investigate strategies for organizing community events and workshops and neighborhood gatherings to foster direct connections, and also consider how to effectively measure the impact and engagement of in-person initiatives. So I can, start with a quick example off the top of my head. How to effectively measure the impact and engagement of in-person activities. One solution that I have is QR codes. I love me a good QR code. It's my favorite thing ever. But also you have to be inclusive of those people who may not be able to scan a QR code. What if you're in a community where a lot of people don't have smartphones? They may still have flip phones. They may still have, a BlackBerry, or older BlackBerry, that is. Not everybody has access to those pieces of technology. So not just doing surveys through QR codes, but also having them available on hand in person, a quick little form for them to fill out on paper and give back to you. That goes within accessibility. It also goes into the different backgrounds financially that people may have. So definitely interested in hearing you guys' thoughts on this. How we can investigate strategies for organizing community events, workshops, and neighborhood gatherings to foster direct communication. Providing free transportation to the event space, making sure to host them in an accessible space. Yes, that's great. And then when you're thinking about that event and you're thinking about advertising and marketing that event, you want to emphasize that. we have free transportation for those people. We have an accessible space for those people who need the accessible spaces. Making sure to emphasize that in your marketing and advertising of that event is important so that people can already see immediately that they're being heard of, they're being included, they're being seen. I'll take about maybe one more before I go to the next one. I want to make sure we have some time for Q&A. Offering gas cards, childcare, food, especially if doing it during a time that will work best for them, like the evenings, and that way they don't have to sacrifice their dinners. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's definitely a great one. So when we're thinking about like, maybe having an event like for fathers, right? You just had an event, what was that, on Friday, about fatherhood, and maybe you were targeting directly single fathers, right? But you understand that single fathers are single fathers. They may not have childcare. They may not be able to be there at a certain time of day. So making sure we're accommodating that, okay, let's make this event for fathers at 6 p.m. And let's do it in a place that has a care facility, a daycare facility, that they can have their kids there for free during this event, so that the fathers can participate. So there's different things like that, that you want to make sure that you're including there. And the last one I'm going to do, so that Rhonda can do her close up, having open networking time, but also having planned breakout groups. This could especially help individuals new to the community who may not have as many connections. That is a great one. I'm very talkative on Zoom, but in person, I am very shy and I can be very hesitant to talk to new people. I'm a little to myself and in the corner. So kind of making those environments for people to kind of break out of that shell and start to feel like they're a part of this community, especially if they're new, is great. Especially when you have planned time for that. Cool. So I'm going to close out because I know I am creeping up on my hour again, and I do want to leave some space for questions and answers. So I'm going to pass this back to Rhonda, but thank you guys so much for engaging with me today. Of course, we'll start our next session off with some more scenarios like we did today, but I hope this kind of gave you a lot of resources and information to help you guys really continue your education outside of this workshop today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dominique. We are so appreciative that you were able to join us today. And I did get a message in the chat. A colleague had to leave out a little early, but they said they can't wait until session 3 and to share this with other colleagues. So the kudos are coming in. So thank you again. And thank you everyone for, thank you, Dominique, for spending this amazing hour with us. On behalf of the ABERG and our colleagues, friends, and partners of the Division of Extension, we hope we can call upon you to continue to engage us in meaningful dialogue. And I'm going to walk away with these 3 pearls. I have my notes in multiple places, but one I'm going to remember is that t-shirt. So I'm counting on you to get us our t-shirt that be your own educator. I'll be looking for my t-shirt. And also that we like ourselves. That was like a ouch, like, oh, we got to check our biases. So that reality check, and just a reminder to take advantage of our OAIC, I always have to look at it, the Office of Access, Inclusion, and Compliance. We have resources available to us. So making certain that we take advantage of those resources so that we can be inclusive of the audiences in which we serve. So thank you for that. And as a reminder, Ms. Dominique Green's full bio and recording of today's session can be found only on our SharePoint site, and the link is available in the chat. We hope that you have enjoyed yourself and will return for our Wisdom Wednesday series, which will resume next week. If you haven't already registered, we're also adding that link in the chat as well. Thank you to everyone who joined this live discussion today, and to those who will be watching the recording. Thank you for taking the time to watch this phenomenal discussion. And we've also added our evaluation link. So if you could take a moment to give us some feedback regarding today's session or any topics that you're interested in learning more about in the future. For those of you, and so that will close out our session for today, and we'll have our Q&A next. So just hang out those that would like to engage with the Q&A.